some way they ended up spending the weekend together. Let me pull them up real quick. They somehow ended up spending the weekend together. And, you know, had a little coitus and stuff like that, right? Don't start playing it, Kevin, but this one right here. And so
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe what you want and watch it take shape. You can plan, customize, and expand in any direction. From tool on Friday.
And so he called Brooklyn. I think he brought it up to her, and then he alleges that she denied it, giving it to him. That's what she alleged. She alleged that he alleges that she denied having it and giving it to him. So he is mad. He is furious, and he calls his mother to explain the situation. I don't want to watch it again because it might make me cry again. So they're they're one of those people who goes to the store and do inventory. They count whatever you got on in stock, and then they match it with the system. And so they out of town. They like 2 hours away from where everybody live. The business is out of town, and they're at this Home Depot. She texting her son, because we got the chat, we got the log, so there's no hiding it at this point. There's no denying it. There's no justifying it. We have the text, we have the log, we have the chat, whatever you want to call it. He's mad. I'm a shooter, right? And he's texting his mom this. She don't even supposed to have her phone. Well, I ain't gonna say she don't supposed to, but she got her phone. She texting him, entertaining it. She didn't went past entertaining it. She is egging it on. She has all the mind games in the world at this point. I'm talking about she played mind games all the way till they convicted her of first degree. All the way to the end. Until they convicted her of first degree. Because the prosecutor got up there. Her son, he got convicted for first degree as well. They brought the son in after he was convicted. Then her trial came second. They brought the son on the stand. And, here we go with the cross. Prosecutor got up there and asked the son, would you have known where Brooklyn was if your mom had not given you the address to the Home Depot? He said, no. The prosecution said, Nothing further, Your Honor. I'm like, bingo. You get your test results back and you mad, you 38 hot, and you want for Brooklyn to have given you this STD so bad. You are definitive about this. You are adamant about this. You are 100% certain that Brooklyn gave you this gonorrhea. Now, what we ended up finding out all the way at the end, past his trial, past his conviction, past his sentencing, now we're on to her trial, which is the mom, his mom, the boyfriend's mom, ex-boyfriend, baby daddy, whatever you want to classify him at. We're on to her trial. She get on the stand and she says, Brooklyn showed her test results and she didn't have gonorrhea. Now, do you think that she told her son this in that moment? She didn't. She didn't. She failed to tell him, oh, well, her test results came back and she ain't had that, so I don't know who you got. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I say I don't know what kind of mind game she was playing. If you was to, like, listen to the conversation, the back and forth, and how even when the detectives brought it to her attention, like, because he walked into Home Depot, I'm talking about, I think she got hit 7 times in the middle of Home Depot and just ran out. She come running after the police arrived. She's trying to cause this scene. She didn't try to faint in the middle of the parking lot, doing the absolute most. I just wish that the crash out season would come to an end. I really do. I wish that the crash out season would just completely subside, because I mean, in the middle of Home Depot, he got on the stand and he said it was an act of passion because when I got to the Home Depot, you done drove 2 hours, and he said he stopped once, contemplated, but he was texting his mama and she kept egging it on. Oh, you a B? If you let her treat you like this, ooh, all that. Just. Then she lied talking about Brooklyn took the phone and was texting. She right where she need to be. Trust me. But not only just the crash out season would come to an end. This is why you can't have a relationship with, like, people and their mamas and stuff like that. Look, you can't even. It was just total confirmation for me. I ain't even gonna lie. Complete confirmation for me, because I'm like, but then I had this moment where I'm in the bed, I'm putting Koa to sleep, and I told myself I was gonna go live, but I never know how it's gonna be. Like, you can't really, like, prep for the live. You just go live and just see what happens. You go live and you see what you find to watch and stuff like that. And so, but I was having this moment, and how this story hit so personal to me, because I remember when, before I moved, there was this incident, right, where one of my co-parents attempted to kick my door in. This is, you have to understand, this is on Christmas Day, right? He's trying to kick the door down. And so I had told him that I was going to get a restraining order. And so then he goes for like 6 months. Don't see him, don't hear from him, or nothing like that, right? And so when he came to see the girls, because that's the co-parent. When he came to see the girls and get the girls, he had the audacity to tell the girls to their face, well, I ain't have to. I don't know what was the context of the conversation because I wasn't there. This is just what was related back to me when they got back. But I just remember Madeline was like, well, Daddy said that he didn't have to kick the door in. He could have just shot the door. Hold on. Just give me a second. Hold on. You know how I have to prep. You know how I have to prep. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Where's she at? Give me a second. She here. I just have to open her first before I try to put her up on the big screen. Because I know, let me see. Let me find her real quick. Hold on. Let me exit out because I just opened her. So she may have to refresh herself. I got her. This is your screenshot. This is your screenshot. This isn't I'm on two different people. I can find her though. Hold on, let me see. The quote that I used on here, put it up on the big screen. Go to J2. Move you out of the way. This is the quote that I use as my thumbnail for this live stream. Not for the live stream on the computer. It says, I don't hate you, I just lost respect for you. That was it was at that moment that I knew, yeah, they got it on the t-shirt. They got it on a hoodie too. And I asked him. I had called him. And I asked him, I was like, why would you tell them that? I said that I could have. And I said, but why would you tell them that? Because I said I could have. And I said it one more time because I'm like, but why would you tell them that? And I said that I could have. I'm like, are you fucking stupid or something? Because I keep asking, like, stop saying the same thing over and over again. Because I'm like, answer the question. I'm like, why would you tell them that? Like, just imagine. Just like the mindset, the mind frame. Like, it was this case was so eye-opening for me, because you see it time and time again, these crash out. You mean to tell me that you are willing to throw the rest of your life away over gonorrhea? Really? I'm like, it's itchy, but it's a shot, maybe some pills or something. It depends on who you go to, and you know what I mean? I'm like, but not throw my life away over no dang on gonorrhea. I'm like, no, 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 not at all. It was just that moment. And then the fact that the mother had become so heavily invested into, like, egging it on. You know what I mean? Like, you should have seen the text message. You should have heard it. It was just so evil on a completely different level, and how they just both sort of it brought me to tears. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, she just completely brought me to tears, because I'm thinking to myself, like, Brooklyn, you definitely didn't deserve that. You definitely didn't deserve that. Absolutely not. Like, just, like, really? But gonorrhea, though, is that's just mind blowing. Mind blowing. To think that somebody would throw their life away over gonorrhea. How? I just, let me, it was just, because he didn't drop today. Kevin didn't drop a video today. So it's Sunday. That's typically who I watch on Sunday. I know Mike just dropped another video Friday. I didn't even get a chance to watch it because I had just watched Micah Miller again. I forgot who told me about that story first. But I ended up just watching that video. You know, another one of those crash outs. And it was alleged that it was determined that she subsequently could have done it to herself. So it's just, but you really want to pray for these people out here, for real, because when I tell you, oh man, let me get this charger. It just mind blowing. It really is. Hold on, let me push it close. It is mind blowing and very terrifying, to be quite honest. Like, and very terrifying. What? How did we get to shooting the door down? Like, how did you get yourself to that point? I don't understand. And then to tell your kids, like, that's yeah, like, that's normal, like, that's okay, like, that's justified, that's better. I ain't have to kick the door, I could just shut. You know what I mean? And you should have seen how, like, they sort of related to me in this sort of daunting way, and I'm like, exactly. Hey, I don't even know why he would say that, like it was okay. It just definitely rubbed me the wrong way, for sure. But that's what happens when you have to move on in life. That's just what happens when you have to move on in life. People feel a certain type of way. I'm like, tell your mom to start calling me. She blocked too. You see what I mean? Like, let me see what's going on with the tax strike.
Today, a bunch of people are like, I'm not filing taxes this year.
Hey, so we're not paying taxes this year, right?
What?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of life y'all living out here. Oh, my mama, I don't know what kind of life y'all living out here, Lord. Let me scoot it over. Sound crazy.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Hey, quick question. Are we filing our taxes this year?
Why y'all talk? Why are you going to TikTok to ask them, hey, y'all, are we doing that or are we? Because y'all need to let me. Oh my God.
It's time for a tax strike. It's time, right?
Listen, everybody has to pay taxes. Even businessmen that rob and steal and cheat from people every day. Even they have to pay taxes.
Are you planning on paying your taxes this year? Because right now, it's a growing movement on TikTok and a lot of other social media platforms and even some TV networks about Tax Strike 2026. It sounds like people are serious. Let's explore what's going on.
I ain't heard about it. Let me straighten you up.
What it look like, TV?
I am back! What it do, baby?
YouTube's own Varnell Hill.
Did ya miss me?
Your very own spokesman for the Insidians. We're inside and we're comfortable.
They're so comfortable.
And I'm back with another one. Before we even get started,
Right.
y'all know this is not a political channel.
Right.
We don't get down in the mud. We here to have fun.
Right.
But the biggest story right now on TikTok is this tax strike. So we're just going to cover what's going on and what people are saying.
Okay,
And we're going to explore the phenomenon. This isn't going to be a political video.
All right.
We just looking at the fact that a lot of people feel like it's a solution and not paying their taxes.
Okay.
And I'm thinking this is a setup for another one of them PPP loan situation, Klarna glitch situations. Because this is going to come back to bite a lot of people in the behind. But let's get right into it.
Hey, so we're not paying taxes this year, right? Because if we were to, that would be taxation without representation, which is literally what we rebelled and created this country for. So, we're not doing that this year, right? Tax Strike 2026.
We do got to get on board with this Tax Strike 2026, okay? We have to, because here's the thing, that if we're not paying these taxes, they have no money to steal. If they want tax refunds to go to the government, they audit our politicians, and they audit the Pentagon, the Treasury. They gonna do all that first and get the money, okay?
Okay.
My husband used to ejaculate prematurely until this.
My hubby is ejaculating so fast. I mean, he gets so anxious about it, it's starting to feel like a chore.
I'm telling you.
Hey, quick question. Are we filing our taxes this year?
Yes, definitely.
Are we?
It's time for a tax strike. It's time, right? I've made a video about this previously, but I wasn't really ready to pull the trigger because I didn't anticipate things getting this bad. I was so wrong, and it's time for us to pull the trigger. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I'm not saying anybody should go out there and do anything. This administration, this government will not see an additional cent of my money. I've already gone into my, HR platform and set myself to exempt. I'm going to put the money aside in a savings account or Roth IRA or something like that, such that, when things get better and it's time for me to pay my taxes, the money's already there.
You guys, we need to pull off this tax strike. We absolutely need to pull this off. Because, I mean, it's like one of the best things that we can do given how large the U.S. is, given how spread out we are. Until we can start, smaller connections within our community and then growing from there. This tax strike, I think this is going to be, let's start there. Let's start there.
And about the tax strike, everyone keeps asking a really dumb question, which is, what if they catch me? What if they catch me? What else do you have to lose? They've taken your health, they took your food stamps, they took all the things that you pay for already away from you. What else do you have to lose? Also, these idiots are so stupid that because they wanted to spend more of your tax dollars in unscrupulous ways, like buying a ballroom and things like that, they fired like half of the IRS. The IRS employees sued them and won because it was illegal, and it was solely so that they could literally steal more of your tax dollars. So you'd rather give your money to the people who are stealing it in your face than just hold it in your pocket and wait for them to come get it. First off, the biggest thing they're
waiting for them to come and get it, ma'am. Got all the justifications. Lord bless their heart over there on TikTok. They was just whining and boo-hooing about the RPM that went down to pennies on a dollar. Pennies on the view, I mean. Just hold on to it till they come and get you. You mean garnish your wages?
It was just trying to send you a letter to tell you to send it. But they're not gonna, because they simply don't have the capacity to enforce the tax code anymore because they did their own thing. So tax strike now.
Like I said, I ain't here to get into how people feel and why they feel like that. I'm here to just to show you what's the mood, what's the tone, and what's going on over on TikTok. And right now, along with all this, as you can imagine, along with all this, you know, we need the tax strike 2026.
Sure.
There's some people out there that's not really giving out the best advice.
Exactly.
So I've been pushing this tax strike 2026 thing's pretty hard. Pretty hard. And the number one question I get asked is, like, what if they garnish my wages? Babes, unless you make a silly amount of money, they're not going to want to go through the effort to find out where you work, figure out who you are. If you don't file taxes, they got to do all that work themselves. They don't want to. They just want you to give them the money right away from every paycheck. If enough of us do this, they're not going to have the manpower to find every single one of us. It's actually a really lengthy process. First, they have to find you, then they have to find where you work, then they have to send a letter to your employer, then they have to wait for the employer to send a letter back. They don't want to do any of that. They don't want to do that. If enough of us do this, they're not going to have the power, the manpower, or the resources to find us. We're going to be fine. But
they got AI now, honey. That's what you keep missing. You keep talking about manpower. They don't need it, honey. They don't need it. They have AI now.
In a high yield savings account, and I promise you, you're going to be fine.
Right now, it's
you should already have a high yield savings account. You should have several. That ain't got nothing to do with your income taxes, though, honey. I can't tell y'all what to do. I can't tell you what to do, honey. If you gonna file. If you don't, okay. Whoop-de-doo. You don't file. Deal with the consequences later. Because, child, ask any celeb. Never mind.
AM somewhere in the world. Somebody has their robe on, they're drinking a cup of coffee, and they just got finished 10 hours of writing the code for the IRS. The IRS is about to have a program where they can find all of y'all and everybody can get a letter on the same day. If you think that they're not trying to get some AI automation at the IRS, you are sadly mistaken.
Yo, what?
I think in the future it's going to be even easier for them to collect this money for you.
Thank you. I know I wasn't tripping. I'm like, ma'am, that's a little that advice is a little outdated, honey. Because I'm like, we have just entered AI. Georgia Power over here trying to get these contracts. Child, Georgia Power is over here trying to get these contracts for these data centers. So, I don't know what she's
just adding that little piece to it because I think she thinks it's going to be harder for them to come collect this money
10 times easier
than it actually is. And all this about you need to be making buku money or you need to owe them tons of money for them to garnish your wages, that's BS. I owe them not even $10,000 in student loans and they garnish my wages. They will come get that money. Like I said, you can feel the way you feel, but don't set yourself up for failure listening to some bad advice.
To everybody that's talking about not paying their taxes and all the bullshit that they're saying about a tax strike. 1099 people that own businesses and stuff like that, yes. I understand, yes, you pay your taxes at the end of the year. They don't take it out of your check weekly or bi-weekly when you get paid like us W-2 people. The W-2 people, what they need to do is they need to change their dependents on their W-2s. Put down 9 kids. Do the same thing that the illegals do. massive dependents. They take out very little bit of taxes out of your paychecks, and then they expect you to pay it back at the end of the year. That's when you say, you. You get all your money throughout the year. They take very little taxes out of your check.
That's a terrible
I was
idea.
gonna say, where the hell are you gonna get these random dependent? What are you talking about? I'm like,
They're not giving out the go crazy with dependence advice. They're telling everybody to go exempt. And a lot of people are going exempt right now.
So I have an update. I officially decided to go exempt on my taxes for the year of 2026. So I'm going to see how this plays out, and we'll be updating you guys shortly how this reflects on the paycheck, because clearly the money's not going where we need it to go.
All right, here's the deal. Some of y'all need some help. Your taxes for 2025 have already been taken out. And that's fine. File your tax return in 2026 in April, okay? Now, since it's a new year, call your employer or get a hold of your employer, send them an email, get you a new W-2 or W-4. My W-4 looks like this, tax exempt. You're going to put tax exempt in the correct box, federal income tax stops coming out of your check. Fantastic. You're never going to get Social Security back if you're a millennial or Gen Z. It's all going to go up in flames. Now, some people are saying, oh, well, I'm going to save money so I can pay taxes later. Whatever, fine. You don't have any cojones, then pay your taxes later. Put it in a separate account. Or don't pay them at all.
We got a badass over here.
Once you file your taxes, then you're giving the IRS the okay to sift through all your stuff. If you owe them money, they're going to come after you. But that's only because you filed your taxes. If you don't file at all, they have nothing to go on. Once you file your taxes, you're saying, hey, IRS, come for me. Okay? So stop filing. If you want to pay them back later, stop filing, number one. If you want to put them in a separate account, pay it later, fine, do that. Or don't pay them at all. Once you go tax exempt, don't pay them anymore. Put them in a separate account, pay them later, but do not file. Once you file your tax return, you're giving the IRS permission.
3 signs your car accident is worth major compensation. If you've been in a car accident recently, there are 3 critical...
You're welcome. Call your employer.
Look.
You need to file as exempt on your W-4 immediately. Do not give the government a cent more than you have to. But Nicole, we have to pay our taxes or they'll garnish my wage. No, they won't. You know why? Because you have until October of next year to come up with those funds. Okay, you file for exempt this year, you get to set aside all those funds that you're getting for not paying your taxes immediately. And then, come filing season next year, file for an extension, you have until October 2027. Imagine how much leverage we, the people, will have if we all do this. October 2027. That is a long way to postpone.
No, not really.
I'm telling you, they out here literally beating the concrete and recruiting people to file exempt. And a lot of people are taking the bait and filing exempt.
Hello, everybody. I had a great night at work. You want to know why? I got 3 of my coworkers to join the tax strike and to put exempt on their W-4s, because guess what, guys? We're no longer paying taxes. I love it. They did it right there in front of me. They switched from paying taxes to exempt. So tax strike 2026. How about this? Tax revolt. Let's do it, guys. Man, there's a lot of crazy shit going on out there, is there? We had, what else happened today? Oh, we had that postal service thing. So I made a good post on it. And you know what? Some postal workers are saying that they received the letter where it talks about an imminent danger and threat coming, and be careful and extra vigilant. And then some are saying they never received one. Some are saying the letter is fake. But you know what? I'm just playing with the internet, because the internet and all this shit coming out, there's so much misinformation out there. So you know what? Oh well. At least I'm trying to do something for the truth. But yeah,
3 coworkers did it. Tax exempt. Let's go. We're no longer funding this government and their freaking wars. Or, yeah, screw both sides. Screw the Dems. Screw the Republicans. Screw the neocons. I'm done. I'm a true conservative. Don't pay your taxes. It's unconstitutional.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Then you got people that say they did the math and they done came up with the exact number of people that they would need to go exempt to actually break the government or send a message to the government.
All right, you ready for some really cool numbers? So I just got done crunching some numbers for this tax strike group that we've put together to perform a federal income tax strike. And a lot of people are asking, like, how big is the group going to have to get before we can have an impact? Or how big does the group need to get before we strike? And I just got done crunching the numbers, and I'm actually pretty surprised. It doesn't have to get near as big as I thought. So according to ChatGPT and the IRS and a couple of other websites, the average American federal taxpayer pays $13,890 in federal income tax. The top 1% pays a little over $500,000 in income tax. The bottom 50% only pay a few hundred, but on average, $13,890. If we assume a 50% participation rate in the group, once the group hits 144,000 members, we have a $1 billion impact to the IRS.
Okay. Hold on. Ty, I would like you to crunch those numbers again.
Who want to be one of the 144,000 chosen? Nah, that was wrong. But didn't we just give somebody $4 billion? That's why you just got to be careful with some of the logic and theories behind this. Like I said, I'm not knocking nobody for how they feel, but moving right on along, I think the part that people keep leaving out about this whole exempt filing status is...
Y'all do know even if you go tax exempt, you still gotta pay the taxes, right? Are we aware of that? Like, I just want to make sure we're fully understanding, because I'm seeing a lot of videos and a lot of comments of people thinking like, oh, they're just not going to get no money. Oh, the government's not going to get no money out of me. True. They're not going to get no money out of you right now.
But
they're going to get their money later on, though. What penalties come with that? I don't know. That depends on you and how much you make, right? But you are going to have to pay them at the end of that tax year. Just making sure we're fully aware. Unless you already have your favorite prison orange jumpsuit picked out. I don't know.
Pay me my money.
It's the...
If you can e-file if you owe taxes, this edition of Tax Tips by TurboTax will explain how you can file and pay online.
Not filing your taxes.
Filing your federal income tax return online is convenient. You can e-file whether you owe taxes or getting a refund. If you end up owing taxes with your return, the IRS offers several payment methods you can choose from. For the option that won't charge you a dump,
as long as to not file their taxes this year. That's the only logic that I see. The only logic that I can see is that the people who went tax exempt all last year, they are the ones who are like, oh no, we ain't filing our taxes this year. You know what I mean? Because they know that since they didn't file exempt for the entire year last year, which was 2025, they know that if they file their taxes, when they file their taxes this year, they're going to take all of their taxes, they're going to take all of their money back out of their income tax refund that they owed or that they're due, because you went exempt last year. And so that's the only logic I can see. And I feel like if you're one of those people who are telling people to tax strike, then you should make that very crystal clear. Oh, I'm only telling people who already went tax exempt last year, don't file this year, because they're going to want their money back. I'm like, you can't tell people to not file who've already paid their taxes last year. That just, logically, that don't even make sense. I'm like, if you done already paid all your taxes and they done took all your taxes out of your check last year, I'm like, okay, you can file, you good. But I'm like, If you went tax exempt all last year, I can see why.
So you're going to have to pay them. And you probably going to have to pay them with some interest or some tax on it. So
Always
you're
interest.
going to have to pay them. You might as well not even set yourself up for the possibility of not paying them. That would be my advice. That's the way I would move. I can't tell nobody out there how to move. But what are the exact consequences if all this goes bad for somebody?
This comment reads, okay, but don't be surprised in a year when the IRS has put a lien on your property. That sounds serious. Let's talk about it. So maybe you're interested in Tax Strike 2026 and becoming a war tax resistor, and you're wondering, what can the IRS do to me? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that here today. Just a disclaimer, this is information only. I'm not giving you any legal advice, any tax advice, any financial advice. This is just information. One of the things that people do to mitigate some of these risks is to take the money that they owe in taxes every year and set it aside somewhere. Maybe in a high-yield savings account, I'm thinking maybe CD, money market, something where you might get a little bit of interest off of it, because the way out of a lot of the consequences is to pay the tax bill. And if you have your back taxes and a little bit of extra to cover fees and interest, that'll make the burden on future you a lot less.
I guess.
So this comment was left on a video where I'm talking about filing your tax return but refusing to pay all or a portion of what you owe. So if that is the situation that someone is in, the first thing that's going to happen is the IRS will send out a form letter. It's pretty standard. They have your information. They know what you're doing, and they want you to know that they know. And these are the scary things that they might be able to do to you. You'll also see penalties being added to your tax bill for not paying. Those can only be a maximum of 25% of your total tax owed, and your tax debt will also start to accrue interest, which will happen until you reach the statute of limitations, which is 10 years. Now about this lien that the commenter is warning me about, the IRS doesn't publish exactly when they take particular enforcement steps, at what part of the process or what level of debt. However, the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee, over years of doing war tax resistance, has figured out that it's around the $25,000 in tax debt mark, which it's going to take me a little bit to get there. I don't know about you. I don't make that much. What does the lien do? Well, practically speaking, if someone is trying to pay you with a loan, say they're taking out a mortgage to buy your house, the bank will see that lien, and instead of paying all the money directly to you, they will pay the federal government what they're asking for before giving you the rest of the money. If you know something different about liens, let me know, but that's the biggest practical impact that will have. A more immediate concern for people might be something like wage garnishment or the seizure of property or assets. And that is something that the IRS could do, and they seem to do it around the $25,000 mark when they do it. However, it is not particularly common. It's a lot of work. And honestly, with the reductions in the IRS staff under President Trump, I think it looks very likely that that's not going to increase anytime soon. And then somewhere in the $60,000 something owed in tax debt, the IRS will then contact the State Department, potentially, and tell them that you are not allowed to renew your passport or get a new passport. So if you end up in a situation where you're coming up on that because you've been a long-time resistor, thank you for resisting for so long, and you might want to get that passport renewed before you hit that mark, because you can continue using your existing passport without any issue. You just can't get a new one. And last but certainly not of least concern is the possibility of criminal prosecution, prison time, that kind of thing. It's not that they can't do it, they just don't do it very often. Maybe because it provides a lot of free publicity and public outrage when it happens, and historically, I believe, has driven even more people towards war tax resistance when they see that kind of thing happening. So it's not necessarily a net win for them. And one of the other possibilities is they might tell your employer to start withholding from you again no matter what you say, which would kind of take away your method that you're using to not pay taxes throughout the year so that you can then refuse to pay them at the end. Now, when I say things aren't super common, that is specifically with regard to war tax resistors. Other types of refusing to pay taxes or tax delinquency, they will go after with a little bit more fervor, zeal. But generally speaking, they don't seem to go as hard as the war tax resistor.
I wanted the word cuppa, as in cup of tea, I thought would be great to mix with hug. When I saw the domain was available, I was like, I'm taking it.
If you want more detailed information, or if you are looking for some kind of advice, you could go to the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee's website. They've got information there. You could try to connect with a war tax resistance counselor in your area, and you can also check out their TikTok here for a lot more information as well. These consequences should go away after you pay the tax debt. So having that money on hand, set aside, ready to go is going to be a big help in that. And then there are also mutual aid funds. I believe the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee oversees one of those aid funds. You can always join it as a contributor. I think the website says that they only make about 3 asks a year, and it's never more than $30, I believe. Go check out the website for more details. If that's something you can afford to do, that's a great way to help support the cause, even if you are not going to tax strike, if you're not going to be a war tax resistor.
Like I keep trying to reiterate to y'all, I don't have a horse in the race. So while we have a whole influx of people out here saying that they're not going to pay their taxes because they fighting the power, we have a whole nother influx of people saying that this is one of the dumbest ideas they ever heard.
That's stupid! Use your common sense.
I don't know why I'm seeing people talk about a tax strike. Taxes already came out of your paychecks. And if you don't do your taxes, you won't get your refund on the fact that they overtaxed you all year. I think they're just saying that so they get to keep all the extra money. Do your damn taxes.
Like this, I'm like, for the people who done already paid their taxes out of their check, I'm like, why would you not? That doesn't benefit you. You done already paid. I'm like, y'all need to be. I know what they don't TikTok. Come to TikTok over here.
All y'all can go on a tax strike in 2026 if you want to, but I enjoy not being in federal prison, so I'm going to keep paying my taxes.
Federal prison.
I've been seeing all over Twitter today, a bunch of people are like, I'm not filing taxes this year.
What is that accent?
It never ceases to amaze me how stupid some people are. Because, one, why are you admitting that on social media? And two, the IRS doesn't work in real time. Like, they're going to let you owe them a good tens of thousands of dollars through taxes. And then they're just going to hit you up like, yeah, we're going to garnish all your paychecks until we're whole. Or they're going to bring you to jail. Neither of which are good options. So, I mean, go for it. Don't file your taxes. I think they're stupid too, but I'm going to keep paying them because
I don't know what the
it's
accent
dumber to not.
Exactly.
And if you're fine with the going to jail option, that doesn't mean that they're not going to take your house or your car or any other assets that you have and then say, hey, we're even. Like, don't fall into the trap of people that are just yapping on Twitter. That's basically the message.
Telling you, man, those Eagles fans, man, them Eagles fans will never lead you wrong. My man was talking common sense. Had to throw the Eagles hat on for him, man. Like I said, I'm just showing y'all what the vibe is and what everybody's saying. In no way, none of this was any tax advice. Don't take no advice that you heard from any of these people in this video. Because me personally, I'm going to pay my taxes and I'm going to pay all of them. Like my man said, the IRS isn't working in real time. And how you think you're going to beat the people that make the money? We just been seeing these people print money endlessly over the past 5 years. They keep printing more money every time we turn around.
And they took the pennies away. Imagine that. I'm talking about, and then took the pennies away. And you had to see my buddy who just went to Home Depot. He was standing out there in the parking lot. He was 38 hot about that 52 cents. He's like, where my pennies at? Oh, we ain't got no pennies. So we just round down. He was like, no, you need to round up. You need to give me a nickel or take your merchandise back. He stood on business about that penny.
You think your little $1 billion or whatever you want to,
I appreciate that.
I'm going to leave it alone. But y'all hit me up in the comment section and y'all tell me how y'all feel about it. Are y'all filing y'all taxes or y'all tax striking? I'm filing mine. I'm going to be one of the first people to file mine, man. I ain't playing with them people. They already garnished my check before. I am not playing with them again. When you go to get your paycheck and you open it up and it's gone, say what?
Look at Richard.
When they had that going feeling, like I'm telling you, for some reason, it seems like as we keep going into the future, financial literacy is going out the window. They are really, really trying to convince y'all to make the dumbest decisions that y'all can make with y'all financial future.
Shut up and take my money.
Decisions that they wouldn't make. Whoever you think that they is, they wouldn't make this decision. So I wouldn't make it either. So on that note, like I said, hit me up in the comment section. Y'all tell me how y'all feel about everything y'all have just witnessed.
Tell me how you felt about what just happened.
And if you made it to this point in the video, you are my MVP.
It was a stone groove, my man.
I'm out of here.
A tax strike is not going to do anything. They're going to get paid anyway. They get their funding from the Federal Reserve, which is a privately owned bank. And there's interest on it. There's been interest on it the whole time. So if that's who creates our money, the Federal Reserve, then the very first loan they issued had interest on it. Guess what? According to the very first loan, more money was owed to pay that back, and that money did not even exist at that time, right? So by definition, the way that it works, there will never be enough money in circulation to pay it back. Most of these people are wealthy. So like, we could stop paying taxes and it's not going to change a thing. What we need is accountability. And we need visual results of that accountability.
You're goddamn right.
Solid advice. Solid. Move out the way because somebody got a cease and desist. Let me see. Okay, well, I didn't know that Logan was suing CoffeeZilla. Give me a second. There's a lot going on in these YouTube streets. Myron was over there on Candy. Still ain't went over there. And he is up to 900K. I didn't even see the last one. I was trying to go back to Wolves and Finance. Let me see if he's still on my feed. Because what's his name sent the cease and desist. Let me see. Yes, this is my algorithm, Lord. She all over the place, ain't she? I'm trying to find it. Ontario. Okay. I'm just be saying what Nate be at. He be traveling or dog food. Who knew that was the code word for, the Huron? Brian.
This is all you need to make the best steak. When you cook and eat this way, you understand how much work your body is doing behind the scenes. Your liver helps break down food, supports digestion, and produces the energy your body uses afterwards. That's why dose for your liver.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah, look, he coming in with a question, Lord. He coming in with a question. I'm like, man, Brian, Adrian, you got this case? And I'm like, look, when he dropped it? 4 days ago. I was nervous to watch it by myself. I was like, ooh, not that Brian. Not that Brian. Didn't he text his mama or something? Call his mama or something? Sat there on the phone? Ooh, I gotta brace myself, Lord, for this Brian. Come on.
Feel in your own home, and how sure are you that you'd notice if something was off? Something as simple as a door opening, a footstep in the hallway, or a presence that didn't belong. Do you think that you'd recognize that danger in time? Or would it move quietly around you while you slept soundly at night? On November the 13th, 2022, those questions stopped being hypothetical when 4 university students were murdered inside their own home in Moscow, Idaho. At the time, they were living just off campus in a place that was meant for rest, studying, and safety. And what followed forced a community and then an entire nation to face one of the most horrifying and notorious cases of 2022. Welcome or welcome back to Coffee House Crime, folks. My name.
I got overwhelmed just with the intro, Lord. It's that Brian. I'm going to try to push through this one, Lord, because when I tell you, let me just get through it.
Adrian, and today we're heading to Moscow, Idaho, to look at a case that eventually became known as the Idaho 4. And I'll be honest with you here, the more that you dig at this case, the more that it seems to unravel. In fact, there are many details that I didn't even know about until I started researching this one. By the way, here is a quick reminder that I and the rest of my team at Coffee House Crime are all in fact humans, and we don't present with AI. We do have a cat though named Nero, so subscribe for Nero. Or, of course, to support your favorite YouTubers. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. Now then, with that said, let's get down to the usual. Please, grab yourself a coffee, and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of the Idaho 4.
Let's just try to get through it.
Welcome to Moscow, Idaho, folks. With a population of just over 25,000 residents, Moscow is inseparable from the University of Idaho. When I say that, what I mean is that the university isn't simply in the town, but it is quite literally Moscow's pulse. As for its students, Moscow feels safe. Violent crime is rare enough to feel abstract, and when something bad happens, it tends to be elsewhere to other people. Houses near campus blur into social spaces. Friends come and go, and doors are routinely left unlocked. It's the kind of place where noise complaints are the most likely police visit, and where life feels like one long social event day in and day out. Now, on King Road, which is a short walk away from campus and found on the southwest corner of town, was a 3-story rental house that stood like many others. As you may have already guessed, this was just another usual run-of-the-mill student house, cheap and cheerful, and filled with 6 young adults. The location was great actually. You had the university to the north, and a few restaurants found only a few minutes further. However, it was just before noon on November the 13th, 2022, that this house, found on the skirts of Moscow, became the epicenter of one of the most violent and brutal stories that America had seen in years.
911 location of your emergency. Tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, let me double check. She's not what's wrong. She's not waking up.
Okay.
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay. I have already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line.
There's a police here right now.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you.
Shortly after this terrifying phone call was made, police arrived at the residence. From the street, nothing looked wrong or out of place. There was no shattered glass, no signs of forced entry, and the curtains were drawn. As they approached the property, some of them even expected that they would only be helping someone wake up. But once they were inside, the reality and gravity of it all quickly set in. What officers encountered was nothing short of horrific. And that's because this wasn't a single or small medical emergency, but was an all-out catastrophe. Additional units were called in immediately, and the home suddenly changed from a student house into a full-blown crime scene. The home was unnaturally still as police officers moved through its narrow hallways, pausing at corners and closed doors, and announcing themselves into rooms that never answered back. The first grim discovery came on the second floor when 2 students were found inside one of the bedrooms, and as officers continued in their investigation, they found 2 more victims in another bedroom. It was at that moment that they realized that 4 young students had all had their lives ended in the same house, across multiple bedrooms and on a single night. And so obviously, they realized that whatever was going on, this extended far past them or the officers, or even Moscow. Meanwhile, outside, the neighborhood's tone shifted. It is the kind of tension that everyone dreads, because as police presence grew and the patrol cars arrived and then remained at the property, everyone waiting outside knew that this was not going to be just another noise complaint. It was in that moment that one of the officers stepped away from the property to speak with one of its surviving roommates. And from this footage, you can tell how horrified and shaken Dylan was.
All I heard was I heard her go upstairs, like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now because she's going upstairs. All
You heard who go upstairs?
Kaylee and the dog Murphy.
And upstairs to the very top?
Yeah, that's where her room is.
Okay.
And then also I heard her walking up, I heard her scream, and she ran upstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs. And I called for her name, but I jumped up and locked my door because I was so scared. I heard someone in the bathroom, and I heard her crying, and I heard some guy say that you're gonna be okay, I'm gonna help you. And I kept calling her name, but she wasn't answering. And then I opened the door for a second, and I saw this guy, and he was not insanely tall, but he was wearing all black and like this mask, which is covering his forehead and his mouth. And I locked the door, and I called, and I didn't know what to do.
This is at 4 a.m.
Yes.
Now, Dylan claimed that she'd woken up in the middle of the night to sounds that she couldn't quite explain. Movements and voices that all felt a little off. It is worth noting, however, that despite the strangeness, she never felt threatened by any of it. Apparently, he was dressed all in dark clothing and didn't even acknowledge her presence. He just simply walked by towards the exit. It's the kind of encounter that you'd feel very uncomfortable in, especially as a woman. But with this being a student house, there could have been a million innocent explanations. And so she simply walked back inside her bedroom and shut her door. But the important part here is that her recollection of that evening changed everything about the story at that stage of the investigation. Because not only did it verify that an unknown, mysterious man was inside the property on the night that her 4 friends were murdered, but also that he had acted while everyone was fast asleep in bed. And as investigators took a closer look at the crime scene, they realized that, although clues were in fact sparse, there were a couple that they could indeed work with. But before we jump the gun here, who precisely were the Idaho 4? So,
yes, this is why I switched to injection-free weight loss.
I was eating healthy, working out every day, and nothing would budge. I've lost a
So, before answering that question, I'd first like to take you behind the scenes here at Coffee House Crime. With the turn of the new year, a lot of us are thinking about returning to work, getting back into the swing of things, and of course New Year's resolutions. But the truth is that a lot of us YouTubers don't actually stop over the festive period. And I'm going to let you in on a small secret here about YouTube. But by the time Christmas and the festive season has ended, many of us YouTubers actually see a huge dip to our AdSense earnings. Which makes sense, right? Because everyone's out of their usual routine over Christmas. And while they're seeing their family and friends, they're probably focusing on more cozy subjects. So with that in mind, I just want to say thank you to all of you who come here week in and week out to help support the channel. And with a natural dip over the festive period, this is precisely how our sponsors, like today's paid partner ZocDoc, can help keep the lights on over quieter moments. So, on the topic of resolutions, what have you decided for yourself this year? Is it perhaps pick up a new hobby, maybe go to the gym more regularly, or finally get around to looking after your health? Now, personally for me, I think this is probably the year that I finally get around to fixing my repetitive strain injury that I picked up at the gym. And ZocDoc will definitely help with that. And if health is on your list too, then I would love to tell you about them. For those of you who haven't heard of ZocDoc, it's a free website that helps you find and book high quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love. With more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, you can search and book providers across more than 200 specialties, including dermatology, dentistry, primary care, and eye care. View thousands of verified patient reviews to get a real sense of who your doctor is, and find one that you actually vibe with. You can also see their real-time availability, click to book instantly, and decide in person or video. Appointments made through ZocDoc typically happen within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments too. So, if you are serious about your health, then there is no better resolution than looking after it. And ZocDoc will help you find a doctor who listens, understands, and, of course, supports you. So go to ZocDoc.com/coffeehousecrime to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thank you to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you folks for supporting the creators that you care about. And now, let's dive into who the Idaho 4 really were.
It has to go through a verification process and all that.
As it always goes, they were all just ordinary people before this story became, well, a story. Much like you and I once were, they were all simply students, just caught in the ordinary gravity of college life. So, beginning with Madison Moore.
Then what just happened? What was the recent update? What was the recent update? It was the lawsuit. It was a lawsuit. I think their families had.
She was 21 years old at the time and was a senior at the University of Idaho studying marketing. Friends described her as outgoing and loyal, and someone who kept people close and made plans easily. This is something we'll come back to towards the end of the video. But Madison worked at a local restaurant named the Mad Greek. Having grown up in Idaho, she was nearing the end of her college years, and so she was naturally looking ahead after graduation and whatever came next. Her close friend, Kaylee Gonsalves, was also 21 years old at the time. Also a senior who was studying general studies, she and Madison were described as inseparable. By now, they had known each other for several years, and would have likely been forever friends. Now, Kaylee was only weeks away from graduating, and had already accepted a job out of state. In fact, she had already even recently moved out of the King Road house, but had returned to see her friends. As for the weekend that she was tragically murdered, Kaylee was back in Moscow to spend time with Madison, and also to show her the new car that she had recently purchased. Now, on the second floor lived Sana Konodal, who was a 20-year-old junior that was studying marketing at the time. Alongside her was her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, who was also 20 at the time. Ethan was a freshman who was majoring in recreation, sport, and tourism management, and was well known on campus for his warmth and friendliness. And although he didn't officially live at the King Road house, he spent much of his time here with his girlfriend, Sana. Interesting side note here, but both Sana and Madison worked at the same restaurant, and their connection was not accidental. This was a house that was shaped by overlapping friendships. Now, you could say that the house on King Road was rarely quiet. It wasn't overly drunk or dangerous or disorderly, but it definitely was social. Many of their friends would come by without any notice whatsoever. Music would play on the porch on most days, and with this many visitors, the noise was kind of inevitable. It is worth noting that in the months leading up to November, police had already been called to the address on more than one occasion. It wasn't for violence or anything criminal like that, and it was merely just noise complaints. But of course, with students being students, a lot of the other neighbors around would lose out on sleep. And as it turns out, one of those visits was even captured on police body cam footage.
Well, understand that you're responsible for the residents, so whoever else is here, if they have a safe way to get home, you need to kick them out. Or tell them to come inside and be quiet. Because the houses that are on this hill all the way around here, we can hear you from clear down the road when we come up here. We can hear the music. And that's we're past the point of having polite conversations, okay? Because neighbors are being kept up.
As you can see in this video, officers approached the house late at night. The atmosphere was relaxed, and Sana, who answered the door, was cooperative, apologetic, and even friendly. The officers told Sana that she had to keep it down before then being on their way. And from this footage, you can see how chill she and everybody else really was. And so, with that said, let's talk about the night of November the 12th, followed by the morning of November the 13th. It was a Saturday, meaning that football was the talk of the town. The University of Idaho Vandals played that afternoon, and with it being a home game at the Kibbe Dome, it drew in thousands of students. The Vandals would go on to win that evening, and so it is no surprise to learn that everyone in the area had a reason to celebrate. Sana and Ethan spent their evening at the Sigma Chi fraternity house, and friends would later confirm that the two were together for the entire night afterwards. It turns out that nothing about their evening stood out, and it's reported that the two left sometime sometime around 1:45, before then heading back towards the property on King Road. Meanwhile, both Kaylee and Madison spent their entire night downtown, staying together while they moved through their usual spots in the area. They eventually arrived at the Corner Club, which is a bar just off Main Street and, once again, a regular stop for them. Both surveillance footage and witness reports placed them here until around 1:30 that morning, where they appeared relaxed and with nothing out of the ordinary happening. There was nothing to suggest that anything was wrong or amiss either, so, just like the other two, there was no obvious sign of drama or issue. When the bar closed, Madison and Kaylee walked a short distance towards the Grub Truck, a late-night food stand that was parked downtown. Just out of coincidence, it turns out that the truck was actually live-streaming on Twitch at the time. The camera had surveillance over the sidewalk in a wide, grainy view, where both Madison and Kaylee can eventually be seen appearing on camera while waiting for their food. As you can see, they occasionally glance over towards the street, and then, at approximately 1:56 a.m., the two then leave in a taxi, which was heading back toward King Road. Madison and Kaylee arrive home just before 2 a.m., and coincidentally, both Sana and Ethan also make it back around the same time.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
And soon enough, all of the lights were out, and the property fell silent at last. Now, for a while, nothing happened, and all was peaceful. However, as we know, around 4 a.m. all of that changed. It all began when Dylan, who was asleep on the second floor, woke up to what sounded like the dog playing upstairs. You see, Murphy the dog belonged to Kaylee, and of course Kaylee was visiting Madison over the weekend, and all three of them lived above Dylan on the third floor. And with this being a student house, noise even this late at night wasn't unusual. It wasn't long after this encounter that Dylan then heard Kaylee say something along the lines of, "There's someone here." And again, while that was an odd thing to hear, it didn't register as a danger or a warning at the time. Instead, it sounded casual and perhaps even dismissive. A short while later, she then heard even more noise, but this time, it was actually coming from the same second floor. She described the sound as crying coming from Sana's room, to which she then heard a male voice respond with, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." However, once again, Dylan felt more confused than worried, and there was no obvious sign of struggle or shouting going on. And so, after checking her front door for the second time, she then headed back to sleep. But after opening her door for the third time, well, what she saw would stop her cold, because that is when she came face to face with a man who was walking straight towards her. Slowly slinking down the hallway, the man was dressed all in black, wore a face mask and had bushy eyebrows, a detail that would later matter. But rather than say or do anything to Dylan, he quite literally ignored her existence. Instead, he walked by her and towards the sliding glass door. I mean that quite literally, by the way, because this man didn't even acknowledge Dylan. Instead, he just walked right by her, and then, just like that, vanished into the night. Dylan stood frozen as the man passed by. Once he was gone, she then shut her door and locked herself inside her room. And it turns out that she was not the only person or thing to spot something strange that night either. At approximately 4:17 that morning, a security camera, which was found less than 50 feet away from the property, captured some rather strange audio. In this footage, you can hear what sounds like voices or a whimper, which was then followed by a loud thud, and then a dog barking repeatedly. It was around the same time that a white Hyundai Elantra was captured making several passes through the neighborhood, after which the car was seen leaving the area quite rapidly. Moving on to the crime scene. In the hours after the brutal discovery, investigators searched for clues high and low. Detectives concluded that the killer had actually done a very good job in leaving almost nothing behind. But, of course, in this day and age, there is always something that they can work on. It was on the third floor, and where Madison and Kaylee were found, that investigators discovered a tan leather knife sheath on the bed. The sheath was stamped with the markings Kabar USMC, and judging by its design, the sheath was designed to stay attached to a belt and not left behind at a crime scene. With all of this in mind, the sheath was carefully collected and then sent for forensic testing. And when the results came back, it was resounding. Located on the metal snap of this sheath was a single male DNA profile. The profile wasn't a mixture or degraded in the slightest. Instead, it offered one single suspect. As the lab work continued, investigators profiled the neighborhood and asked both far and wide for surveillance footage, and thankfully, what they found was movement. Through all of the hours of footage they scoured, no surprise, but they would eventually be most interested in the white Hyundai Elantra that we've already mentioned before. Now, initially, analysts believed the car to be a 2011 to 2013 model. However, this was eventually extended to be as new as 2016. When police asked the community for help in identifying the vehicle, their response was overwhelming. We're talking about thousands of tips pouring in, with many leads extending into Washington, Oregon, Nevada, and even Montana. That was a lot of land for police to cover. But I'd like to draw your attention to here, to the nearby town of Pullman, Washington, which can be found about 10 miles away from Moscow. Despite being in different states, driving between these two towns only takes around 15 minutes. And it turns out that one particular white Hyundai Elantra that came from the town of Pullman had now come across their sights. The vehicle's records would lead them to a graduate student living in the area, and his name was Brian Kohberger. And surprisingly, not only did his vehicle fit the bill, but when detectives took a closer look into his profile, they realized that his trail was not actually subtle at all. In fact, he already had history with Moscow. It was in August of 2022, and only a few weeks before the killings, that Brian had been stopped by Moscow police for a routine traffic violation. Now, at the time, this interaction was quite unremarkable. He gave the police officers his ID, answered their questions, and then provided them with his phone number. So, when investigators later applied for warrants to obtain historical phone records, they took this opportunity to check out his location data. And when they did, well, let's just say that it painted a pretty devastating story. Surprisingly, it showed that Brian was in the area of King Road at least a dozen times in the months leading up to November the 13th, with most of these visits happening late at night or in the early hours of the morning. Of course, this was a very strange detail for detectives to realize, because Brian had no business in the area. So, why was he repeatedly traveling to King Road without any purpose or reason? Detectives also realized that between 3 and 5 on the morning of the murders, Brian's phone stopped connecting to nearby towers altogether. It didn't appear near King Road or anywhere else for that matter, and was untraceable in a 4G and 5G rich area. In short, the phone was decisively turned off for 2 hours that morning, over the space where 4 people were murdered. And of course, that wasn't reassuring at all to detectives. If anything, it was incredibly suspicious. And when his phone was finally switched on and connected back to the network, it showed Brian traveling southwest away from the crime scene, which of course aligned perfectly with the surveillance footage. And all of a sudden, the data, and even the lack of data, was creating a very damning picture.
At this point, you're probably not avoiding therapy because of stigma. You're probably avoiding therapy because you've become very good at coping. So good that you stop noticing how heavy everything feels. As a therapist who goes to therapy,
Now, if that wasn't enough already, detectives in Pennsylvania would then go on to recover trash from Brian's family home. Of course, the main aim here was to try to find DNA that belonged to Brian or his family. And when they finally tested trash that belonged to his father, lab analysis showed that the profile was consistent with being the biological father of the person whose DNA had been found on the knife sheath. All of a sudden, all of these separate articles of evidence which had once floated separately, that being the sheath, the car, the DNA, and the phone, was now all coming together. And what initially began as a lone, mysterious man walking down a hallway had now transpired into the actual name of the Idaho 4 killer. So, we know his name, and we know all about his behavior, but who precisely is Brian Kohberger? 27 years old at the time, Brian Christopher Koberger seemed ordinary enough at first. Of course, minus that death stare, because that is not ordinary. Now, on the surface, his life appeared to be structured and was directed by his routines, academic goals, and a quiet sense of ambition. Born on November the 21st, 1994, and raised in Pennsylvania, Brian grew up in a suburban home with his parents and sisters. Family members would later describe his childhood as normal and definitely not troubled. He attended local schools, moved through his teenage years without any notable drama, and always seemed relaxed. People who knew Brian in his earlier life do recall his struggles, however. As a teenager, Brian dealt with both weight issues and social isolation. Over time, he would eventually lose most of his excess weight and would then become focused on discipline, boxing, running, and strict routines. Academically speaking, Brian first earned himself an associate degree before then going on to receiving a bachelor's degree in psychology. Strangely enough, his interests would even narrow down towards crime, and he then went on to complete a master's degree in, you guessed it, criminal justice. Now, here's the interesting part, but it turns out that his coursework focused on criminal behavior, investigative methods, and even the mechanics of crime itself. And then, in 2022, he enrolled in a PhD program in criminology at Washington State University in Pullman. Brian came across as both serious and reserved, and although he wasn't known as an extrovert, he was described as sometimes confident. Other people would say that he was cold, corrected others during discussions, and would take debate way too seriously. Oh, and another interesting side note, but he had also applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department as a data analyst, and although he wasn't accepted into the program, you can quite clearly see his intentions. In the days and weeks after the murders, and while Brian was still a free man, people who saw him say he appeared quiet and more withdrawn. It was also noted that he attended all classes as usual, continued on with his routine, and although a little bit more quiet, his behavior didn't seem much different than before. It was almost like nothing big had happened in his life. But little did he know that, soon enough, he was going to come face to face with dozens of armed officers. It was on the morning of December the 15th, 2022, that Brian and his father were driving home for the holidays. This included a 2,300-mile journey from Idaho to Pennsylvania. However, not long into the journey, officers would stop them in their tracks. But not for the reason you'd expect. They were initially stopped in Hancock County, where an officer pulled the vehicle over for following another one too closely. After approaching Brian's window, he handed over his license and his registration without any hesitation. The deputy explained the reason for the stop, issued them a warning, and then sent Brian and his father away. However, only 9 minutes later, officers appeared yet again. Now, at this stage, you might be thinking to yourself that maybe officers were finally going to arrest him. However, unfortunately, you'd be wrong. This time, it was an Indiana State Police trooper that stopped them for the very same reason as before. But even still, no search was conducted, and once again, they were released without a warning. Now, at the time, neither of these stops was unusual or strange, and no laws had been broken. So, there was no plausible reason for them to detain Brian. But of course, these two moments stand out not for what happened, but what didn't happen. You have to remember here that at this stage in the investigation, both Brian and his car were under the spotlight, and yet here they were being noted down not once but twice before then being allowed to go on their way. However, thankfully, less than 2 weeks later, their journey would end in a very different way. By the final week of December, the investigation had gone quiet on the surface. However, behind the scenes, investigators were no longer looking for who was responsible, but instead were merely waiting to act on it. They already had the outline of the case, the car, the phone data, the timeline, the DNA, and the man responsible. And so, in the early hours of December the 30th, 2022, law enforcement finally made their move. It was shortly before dawn that a tactical team arrived at Brian's family home. Now, according to police reports, they actually found him while he was digging through his own family's trash can while wearing latex gloves. Now, for any innocent person out there, I don't think that's how you'd spend your typical Friday morning. So, I guess you could say that they actually caught him red-handed. Brian was arrested without incident, and when he arrived at the police station, he was charged as a fugitive from justice, that being a procedural step that allowed Idaho authorities to bring him back across state lines. Simultaneously, search warrants were executed on his home, his belongings, and the white Hyundai Elantra that had already traveled thousands of miles with him. Detectives would also seize both his phone and his computer, which, funnily enough, would conveniently lead to an entire album of his selfies being released, categorized into selfies that he had taken before the murders and after. Speaking of selfies, this one was taken not even 6 hours after he had murdered 4 innocent people. I would also like to question why he took so many photos of his own butt. Investigators would later state that sections of his browsing history from the weeks leading up to the murders were also missing, and that absence was extremely abnormal. And as for his mobile phone, well, unfortunately, data was sparse. Brian barely kept any contacts in his phone book. It was mostly just his mother and father, and records showed that they frequently communicated in the days after the murders, which included both text messaging and phone calls. But beyond that, the authorities have been quite careful in what they have publicly released. They have referenced material suggesting rather disturbing interests, and have also noted that there are patterns of online activity that point towards fixation and control. However, most of that evidence has not been disclosed publicly in detail. But what really mattered here is that each element on its own would describe a little bit of the story. But when they were all put together, well, that created a much stronger picture, and one that was far more believable.
Being a pro doesn't start... lights. It starts in the kitchen, where factory chefs...
The public's outrage was immediate, and as for Brian's reputation, well, you could say that he's become one of the most hated men in America. In fact, he's become so notorious in the recent 2 or 3 years that I'd be surprised if you hadn't heard of his name before clicking this video. His trial was scheduled for June the 30th, 2025. And for about 2 years, everything was building up towards that moment. During all that time, they'd been collecting statements, testimonies, and of course all of the evidence that we've already talked about. But the thing is, that trial would unfortunately never happen, because only a few weeks before it was set to begin, Brian accepted a plea agreement. To elaborate here, Brian formally pleaded guilty to the murders of Madison, Kaylee, Sana, and Ethan, and an associated burglary charge. And with his plea accepted, he narrowly avoided any trial whatsoever. However, one of the most frustrating things about this case is that Brian refused to comment past his plea deal. What that means is that he didn't provide any explanation or acknowledgement beyond the admission itself, and neither could the court ask him to describe what he had done or even why. It also meant that because he had pleaded guilty, the state was forced to withdraw its pursuit of the death penalty. It basically meant that because Brian had merely said he was guilty, he wouldn't face trial, wouldn't have to explain himself, wouldn't have to face his victims' families, and wouldn't have to face death itself. But the good news here is that he also waived his right to any future appeals, and the legal system accepted certainty without any further detail, meaning there is literally no way he can leave prison. However, on the other side of the coin, it still means that we will never know his motive or any intricate details of his crime, because, unfortunately, his right for trial in the future was waived away too. At his sentencing, the judge imposed 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring that each victim's life was recognized individually, and that there would be no mechanism by which Brian could ever be released in the future. he was also given additional time for the burglary charge too, which of course was largely symbolic in the face of his life sentences. During his hearing, family and loved ones of the victims addressed the courtroom. They spoke of who the Idaho 4 were before November the 13th, and how now their futures will never unfold due to the actions of one disturbed individual. Unsurprisingly, Brian himself offered no statement of his own and basically kept quiet for the entire thing. And when the hearing was over, he was led away in handcuffs to begin the rest of his life in maximum security. And thankfully, from this moment onwards, his movements will be heavily controlled, his contact limited, and his days will be extremely repetitive. His life won't be easy, that's for sure. Not that it deserves to be, or, quite frankly, that he even deserves one. As you can likely imagine, his plea agreement did nothing to bring relief. In fact, for some people, it actually kind of felt unfinished. By removing the death penalty and requiring no explanation, his agreement left dozens of questions unanswered. Of course, as a result, the full story would never be told in court. And I'm still left wondering here, why that house? Why did he target those students? And what truly happened in those final minutes? Tragically, we will never know. Okay, as far as the factual information goes, this is where the story ends. But before I finish today, I would love to talk about the credible speculation that we've seen. As far as motive or direction is concerned, many people believe that Brian may have been targeting Madison, whose bedroom was located on the 3rd floor. I would like to highlight that there is no proof that the two had any personal relationship or even knew each other. However, Brian's movements do assume that maybe he was targeting her. The reason that some people believe this is that when intruding the property, he bypassed most of the rooms in the house and went straight to her bedroom. It is also the same room where Brian's knife sheath was found. But the problem for Brian is that, unexpectedly, Madison's friend Kaylee was also there at the time, which, of course, would have shifted his actions entirely. Mobile phone data would also suggest that Sana, who was on the 2nd floor, was also awake on her phone shortly before the murders, and that her room sat along the likely path that Brian would have had to take to leave. This means that both Sana and Ethan would have likely been unintentional witnesses that Brian would have likely wanted to silence after murdering both Madison and Kaylee. And with the speed in which Brian left the property and the sheath left behind, many believe that the situation got out of hand and then he panicked. And so, if we were to believe these speculations, we would assume that Brian had broken into the property with the objective of targeting Madison, panicked when he realized that she wasn't alone, murdered 2 innocent women as a result, and then doubled that to 4 when he realized that he couldn't leave any witnesses behind. Speaking of speculation, there are many thoughts and feelings around the Mad Greek, which, of course, is the restaurant where both Madison and Sana worked. In the early stages of this investigation, there were some media reports that suggested that maybe Brian had visited the restaurant in the weeks and months leading up to the murders. And of course, this opened the doorway to possibilities of how Brian had maybe become aware of Madison, or even Sana. The restaurant's owner has publicly denied recognizing Brian and stated that neither she nor any of her staff ever recall him being there. In addition to this, law enforcement has never confirmed any interaction between him and the victims at the restaurant, and no evidence has ever been released to support the claim either. And so, as it stands, and as far as we know, the whole Mad Greek connection remains unverified. And
it's Deadpool's turn to shine.
And all of that is despite this image right here, which is an image released by law enforcement showing a raw data extract taken from a Google review. Anyway, that is as much as I would like to speculate, and I'm going to wrap this one up by remembering who the Idaho 4 were, because their lives matter far more than the person who took them. Madison Mogan was more than just a name tied to a case. She was a friend who showed up, a co-worker who made work easy, and a daughter who stayed close to home even when she was planning her future. Family and friends alike miss her tremendously, and the void that she has left behind will likely never heal. This is the same for Kaylee Gonzalez, who was a true friend with an honest path ahead. She had plans already forming, a new job waiting, and a life that was only beginning to open outwards. She loved fiercely, spoke openly, and returned to Moscow that weekend for only one simple reason: to lovingly spend time with one of her friends who had become an important part of her life. Sana Kanodal was known for her energy and her humor, and her friends remember her for the way that she filled a room without even trying. She balanced work, school, and relationships responsibly, and still made time and space for happiness. Ethan was described as kind beyond measure, and made people feel included without effort. On the night that he was murdered, he was staying with the person that he loved, in a house that he felt safe in, and in a town that always was. As for the house on King Road, it remained vacant for a long time, but over the weeks and then months and then years that it remained empty, it basically became an ominous ghost in the area, reminding people and the town of the horrors that it held. And so, it is no surprise to learn that, eventually, it was decided to be torn down as a matter of respect. Now, only open ground remains in its space, and it's not clear if anything will ever be built on top again. In the same way that we finished last week's video, I always find it fascinating when a building is left behind, not only for what it stood for before the murders, but also how it transformed in the process. I think in this case, it absolutely was the right decision to demolish the house, because, unfortunately, those four walls have experienced so much pain. And that, folks, is the case of the Idaho 4, at least as it currently stands in January of 2026. Of course, with Brian not sharing much of his own motive or story, there is still potential for more information to come out in the future. We can only hope that he does so to bring closure to the victims' families. Before I go, I'd love to know what you think about this case, because, of course, it is quite the notorious one, so I'm sure you have your own opinion. As always, please share your thoughts in the comment section down below. I really do appreciate the feedback too. And thank you again to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. Go to ZocDoc.com/coffeehousecrime to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you can go to my Instagram, Facebook, or Spotify, all under the name of Coffee House Crime. But of course, YouTube is my main home base. Anyway, folks, as you can probably tell, my voice is absolutely shot today, so I'm gonna end it here. I'll see you again very shortly for another video, likely next week. But until that moment arrives, remember to look after yourselves and each other. And of course, stay safe and stay curious. Thank you, and goodbye.
Tough. That was tough. I mean, see, there's Mike over there. That he dropped that Friday. Let me give me a second. Let me go on over here to Drewski real quick. Let me go to him. I'm gonna go back to the church one. Oh no, I gotta know because he was playing music. He playing music, but listen. I think I should have screenshotted it because I caught it when it was like at 300,000. He up to 3.3 million. Let me get me out the way. Let me get out the way. Over there with Travis. Scroll down so we can get his Why are we giving Drewski all this backlash? Why are we I'm not gonna wrap it up. I'm just trying to figure out why were we giving Drewski all this backlash, because he told the truth about what be going on in those mega churches. Now, listen. Obviously, he ain't talking about just any old churches. It says mega church. Mega church. Some of y'all don't even qualify. Some of y'all don't even classify as mega church. So I'm just trying to figure out why you so mad. Mega church, that and then he was driving a Bentley. So that means that you need to, if you're not checking off on these checkpoints, then you shouldn't be mad. You shouldn't be mad. I'm talking about mega church. That means, let me, let me see what these mega churches is talking about. Your mega church need to be giving out food on the first and the third Saturday of every month. That's mega church. Your church need to have a child care school, center, academy, something attached to it. Mega church. Qualifications. You ain't qualifying. You're not qualifying. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why were people giving backlashes to Drewski? And I'm like, that ain't got nothing to do with your church. You ain't no mega church. That's not you. He ain't talking about you. Don't get mad. Don't get mad. He only talking about the mega ones. And excuse me, excuse me. Do we need to let him make a part 2? I'm just asking. Do we need Drewski to make a part 2 about the mega church pastors and how they be acting? Cause we can we can make a part 2. We can go get one of them file cabinets that got the wheels on it and got the lock at the top like that. We can bring all the PDF files and put them in there. So I'm like, I know y'all ain't. Don't start. Don't start. Settle down. He was getting a lot of backlash about that. That's crazy. I must be on my other channel. Because I could have sworn, hold on, let me go back. I thought I was subscribed to Drewski. I'm like, y'all, I ain't finna go there. I ain't finna go there with y'all. I let him have it. I laughed. I got me a little kiki. I definitely got me a little kiki. It was funny. It was accurate. And it was funny. So, I mean, now what? Y'all can't take a joke? It ain't funny no more? I'm like, but remember, that ain't you. That's not your church. You don't qualify as a mega church. Settle down, settle down. Settle down. Whoa, come on. Okay, I kept saying it. I was like, I think she sent it to somebody. What did you say? Before I wrap it up.
I received a letter from Turning Point titled Demand to Cease and Desist Defamatory Comments. This is the first step when someone sues you for defamation.
Facts.
I know there are a lot of people out there making videos about Turning Point, so you should pay attention to this. They have started sending out cease and desist letters, and for some reason, they've decided to start with me.
John, do you see the captions at the top? Do you see the captions at the top?
Apparently, they cannot handle the criticism from my teeny tiny YouTube channel. This letter is showing the world the type of organization Turning Point has become under Erica Kirk. They want to send legal letters to small YouTube creators. So we're going to go through this letter.
Let's go.
And by the way,
speed it up.
If any of you know a good lawyer in Arizona that handles defamation cases, have them send me an email through my website because I'm looking for a lawyer.
I don't know what took me so long to get that speed. You know, listen. Now, to be quite honest, I've been very busy. I've been so busy. Now that I think about it. But let me get that speed up real quick. I've been so busy. Because remember YouTube, you have live stream, YouTube shorts, and then you have pre-recorded videos, okay? 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 Live stream, YouTube shorts, pre-recorded videos, okay? Let's just make sure that we understand those 3 areas, okay? And most importantly, if you want to become an expert in those 3 areas, then you have to take time out to debrief You have to take time out to learn behind the scenes. Okay, we live stream. I like the cartoon feature and stuff like that. Y'all tell me why. I can make shorts now with them. I can make YouTube shorts now with the feature, the cartoon effect. We can make YouTube shorts now with it. When I tell you, I was so, my mind was like, I can use it on the YouTube shorts? Stop it. And the great part about it is that I can cut the feature on without recording. That makes it 10 times better. Like, watch. Hold on. Let me see. So I'm over here. I'm on YouTube. Right? I'm on YouTube. And I'm down here on short, right? Now I'm gonna go over here, pull my scroll bar down, and obviously it's going to expand. It's going to show everything. Obviously it's going to be a lot harder to read with the effect on. And so we have the flip the camera around so it'll not be on front face, it'll be on the back camera. The second one is the timer. The third one is the duration. So you could change it from 15 seconds to 3 minutes. And then, of course, you have the effects button, which is the star. And so you want to click the effects, right? And all of the effects will pop up down here at the bottom. And the great thing about it, because I was like scrolling through them, just looking through them, I mean, is thousands, hundred, I don't want to say thousands, it's just, I mean, you have the new, you have AI, you have like makeup. I haven't even went through like all of them to like see, because of course you know me, you know how I do. I go to effects and they have that search bar, so that way you don't have to scroll. You just scroll back over. You have the search bar and then you type in tune. It's the tune with the girl. And the great part is when you type it for a YouTube short, it automatically, hold on, let me hit it. And then you just press the check mark. It automatically has the feature come on. That's so, I mean, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love that. You want to know why? Because if I wanted to record a video, all I have to do is, look, all I gotta do is screenshot it. Well, what is it called? Record my screen. That's screen grab. I just gotta screen grab it. All I gotta do is screen grab it. I was like, oh, child, I don't even have to make my own, because you know the YouTube short stops at 3 minutes. But if I wanted to make my own video longer than 3 minutes and I wanted to use the effect, all I have to do, make my own little video. Say if we was, going over there, XYZ videos, or, Cornhub, or for the fans only, because we make our rounds. All I got to do is, drop the rope. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. I really do. I'm talking about, I was just so thrilled at discovering that. Then, of course, I had to make intro videos. I had to make outro videos. I had to make thumbnails because I have to pre-record now that I have the feature. I can pre-record now for the homeless in Atlanta series. I have the thumbnails for it. I have an intro and I have an outro created now. And so now I can use the feature. I can pre-record the video, and then obviously I'll have to like chain it all together because that's like pre-record. You know how you want to like tap into each algorithm, the live stream algorithm, the YouTube short algorithm, and then the pre-record algorithm. You want to like sort of tap into each one, feed each one. And so there was that. Intro, outro, things of that such. Make the video long enough to get your watch time hours up and stuff like that. So I have been working. I've just been trying to slow down on the live streams. And tap
Turning Point states in the letter, Turning Point entities are not looking for litigation, rather their interest is in the truth and making sure the public record is accurate. So they are claiming they do not want to sue me. But I view this letter as a threat to sue, and I think any reasonable business person would do the same. A cease and desist letter is the first step towards a defamation lawsuit. I interpret this letter as Turning Point telling me to shut my mouth or they're going to sue me. I do not understand what Erica Kirk is doing. Out of the hundreds of people posting on social media about Turning Point, why are they targeting me? Why are they so worried about what I am saying that they're sending me legal letters? I am one of the smallest YouTube channels in my market segment. Who do they think I am? I'm a working accountant with a small YouTube channel. I have no money. I have no power. I have no influence. I don't know how much money they think they're going to get from suing me. All I have is the truth. And I'm not going to stop speaking the truth because Erica Kirk doesn't like it. The one good thing about a lawsuit is that everything will be out in the open, and Turning Point will quickly find out that I have nothing to hide. The letter came from a lawyer named Paul Edgard Harold from South Bend, Indiana. It seems like this is Turning Point's lawyer. I looked him up, and I cannot find that he has been admitted to the State Bar of Arizona in order to practice law in Arizona, so I'm not exactly sure how he's going to sue me in Arizona, but maybe he's working with other lawyers. In the letter, they order me to, please confirm that you will publicly correct your false statements immediately. This is not what I was going to talk about this week, but Turning Point is demanding that I communicate their statements publicly. So here we go. They include a whole list of statements they claim are false that I have made in my videos about Turning Point.
Let's go.
Now, I'm not interested in spreading false information. So I'm glad that Turning Point reached out to me because if I said something wrong, I am happy to correct it. So let us go through the statements where they have a problem. And you're going to want to hear this because some of these are wild. On November 16th, I posted a video called Bombshell, Did Turning Point USA Commit Fraud? They say these are false claims. Charlie Kirk ordered a Doge-style audit that was never conducted. Here's my first problem with this letter. They do not include the actual quote that I said in the video. This is a paraphrased statement of what I said, and they are saying that the paraphrased statement is a lie. You have to tell me exactly what I said that was supposedly a lie, and they do this through the whole letter.
Hey guys, can you believe that Amazon made billions of dollars and only paid zero?
So my request to this lawyer, in future letters, because I'm assuming there's going to be more, please include the actual quote that I said so that I can respond to your accusation. But I'm going to at least try to interpret what they're saying. I spoke in my video about a memo that Charlie Kirk wrote 8 days before he was murdered. In the cease and desist letter, they say, indeed, Turning Point USA's COO announcement concerning the Doge effort never used the word audit. So this is breaking news. Turning Point's attorney has now confirmed that the Charlie Kirk memo is authentic. We now have legal confirmation this did happen. It seems like their problem with my video is that I called it a Doge audit, when in the memo it is written as Doge effort. So they want everyone to use the word effort and not use the word audit. This letter is seriously hurting my head. Whatever word you use, the memo is clearly talking about an evaluation of Turning Point. But we cannot use the word audit, we have to call it an effort, or they are going to sue you. The letter goes on to say, the announcement makes clear that Turning Point USA was doing what it has always pledged to donors, ensuring it was being efficient with its funds and time and making changes to foster greater efficiencies. Moreover, Turning Point USA hires a third-party audit firm to conduct an audit every year. This is all just their opinion. This is how they are interpreting Charlie Kirk's memo. They think that Charlie Kirk wrote this memo, and they think it means that they do not have to do anything. How convenient. They think that Charlie Kirk wrote a memo just to tell people to keep doing business as usual. Well, my opinion, and the opinion of many other people, was that Charlie Kirk's memo meant something different. This is not a statement of fact, it is an opinion. This is another problem I have with this letter. Most of the statements they mention are opinions, just like this one. If you are going to accuse me of defamatory statements, they need to be facts, not opinions. If I have a fact wrong, let me know and I will happily correct it. But I will not change my opinion of this memo to whatever you want. But since it is so important for Turning Point, I have no problem with specifying that Charlie Kirk's memo used the words Doge effort, not Doge audit. The next statement is, someone at Turning Point decided not to file 990 forms. At the time I made that video, those forms were not publicly posted. Those forms were posted after I made that video, and I've already made a correction about that. The next statement is, in 2023, $650,000 may have been funneled from Turning Point USA through Turning Point Action to Turning Point PAC to evade campaign finance restrictions. They are referencing this chart from my video. They claim money actually went from Turning Point Action to Turning Point USA as a reimbursement for event expense. There was nothing nefarious about that transfer. I'm not sure they are contradicting what I'm saying. According to their own statement, Turning Point USA used their own donor funds to pay for an event on behalf of Turning Point Action, freeing up Turning Point Action funds, which they then transferred to Turning Point PAC. They are saying that later, Turning Point Action reimbursed Turning Point USA for that event. But that doesn't change what I was saying. Additionally, in my video, I specifically said, again, this is not necessarily illegal if they structure their transactions correctly and utilize campaign finance loopholes, but it certainly looks unethical. That is my opinion. This money did move between the organizations. I'm allowed to have my opinion. On November 30th, I posted a video called Explosive, More Fraud at Turning Point USA. They say these are false claims. There was more fraud at Turning Point USA. I assume they are referring to the title of the video here. They, of course, are saying that there is no fraud at Turning Point USA. The content of the video is me going over the evidence of fraud and sharing my opinion. Now, technically, a true statement would be that no one has been convicted of fraud at Turning Point USA. But whether fraud is going on right now is an opinion. This is what happens in every criminal court case. Both sides look at the facts. One side gives their opinion that they are innocent. The other side gives their opinion that they are guilty. Turning Point is looking at the financials and claiming that they are innocent. I understand that. I'm looking at the same financials and thinking they look suspicious. I did not even say in my video that they committed fraud. I think I'm very fair and balanced when I say, now for legal reasons, I have to say that I do not have any evidence of a crime. We would need an investigation of the books at Turning Point to know for sure. What I am saying is that there are red flags in the financials at Turning Point and a lot of questions that need to be answered. That sounds to me to be pretty fair and balanced, and the complete opposite of what they are accusing me of saying. They cannot take my statements out of context and accuse me of defamation. I have the right, as a journalist, to report on Turning Point's financials. Their opinion that they have not committed fraud is just an opinion. My opinion is that it looks suspicious. Now, it is nice that we have this letter with their official statements, but the letter does nothing to change my suspicions. It does not address most of my questions. Instead of answering my questions, it is the precursor to a lawsuit unless I change my statements. That does nothing to reduce my suspicions. For the sake of avoiding miscommunication, I can change the title of the video if that makes them more happy. I already changed it from More Fraud at Turning Point USA to More Fraud at Turning Point USA, allegedly. The next statement is that America's Turning Point had ghost employees. The letter explains, America's Turning Point had 80 employees in FY23 and 108 in FY24. There was, however, an inadvertent error in America's Turning Point filing which failed to note these employees, and America's Turning Point is in the process of rectifying that inadvertent error. So I was right. There was something wrong. They did put incorrect information on the 990 form. There were missing employees they were not reporting. They have confirmed it. And just to be clear, this was not some minor mistake. This was around 80 employees that were somehow missing. Their complaint is that it's not correct to use the term ghost employees. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that opinion, but that is their position. I find this incredible. How are they going to sue me for this? They admit that I am right that the employees were not reported correctly. They don't like the wording I used. How is that defamatory? The next statement is that donations to Turning Point Action increased from $10.7 million in FY23 to $27.2 million in FY24, and suggested that Tyler Boyer may have been recruiting these donors away from Turning Point USA to undermine MAGA and benefit himself. Again, this is not exactly what I said, and I find their paraphrasing of my statements a little silly. They are claiming that Tyler Boyer never tried to undermine Charlie Kirk in any of his decisions. Tyler Boyer never tried to benefit himself in his role at Turning Point. I find those claims a little excessive. What I actually say in my video was sharing my opinion on the financials, which I'm allowed to do. When you see Tyler Boyer's organization growing so much faster than Charlie Kirk's organization, that looks to me like a corporate takeover from the inside. That is my opinion, which I'm allowed to have. Now, of course, I cannot know what is going on inside Tyler Boyer's mind, but that's not what I said in my video. I was not speaking about his state of mind or his motivation. I do not know that.
My wife said, if you win, we'll fly to Asia. If I win, we'll fly to Paris.
I keep forgetting.
I bet you won't get toned with just Tai Chi walking before Christmas. Guess who won?
My dad can't lose weight with Tai Chi, so it's a scam?
Oh, no, he's probably just doing it wrong. Most men do Tai Chi wrong, and that's a...
The letter goes on to explain that donors naturally direct more money towards election activities in election years, especially to organizations like Turning Point Action that can engage in lobbying and political activity during election years. Accordingly, you are wrong to assert that the increased donations to Turning Point Action evinced any sort of wrongdoing on Mr. Boyer's part. So their explanation is that all the changes in the financials can be explained by the election. That is their official explanation. I do not believe it, and that is my opinion. On December 7th, I posted a video called Top 10 Clowns of the Year. In this video, I called Turning Point my #1 clown of the year. I talked about the now infamous interview with Turning Point's chief security person talking about the day that Charlie Kirk was murdered. I point out the massive contradiction where he says they were not allowed to fly drones. Then I show the interview with Frank Turek where he says he was watching drone footage with Charlie Kirk. This part is breaking news because I'm not aware this has ever been discussed. The lawyer in this letter says the following. There was no discrepancy. UVU prohibited Turning Point USA from flying drones for security purposes during the event, but did allow a Turning Point USA media production drone to briefly fly over the location before the event to collect limited B-roll footage. First of all, how could this be defamatory if I had no idea about any of this? Second, I find this explanation absurd. You are telling me that the security team was not allowed drones, but the media team was? That is the official explanation from Turning Point's lawyer. My honest opinion is I do not believe that. But if that did happen, that is really silly, and it may have cost Charlie Kirk his life. On December 14th, I posted a video called Tim Pool Rants about Turning Point. They say these are false claims. Asking whether money sent to 110 LLC was to bribe Jay Kaufman. Again, that's not exactly what I said. They are complaining that I'm not allowed to ask questions. I cannot ask questions about 110 LLC. I cannot ask questions about Jay Kaufman. I think those are fair questions to ask, given that Turning Point sends them millions of dollars as one of their largest independent contractors. This is America. I'm allowed to ask questions. But I think it is fair for Turning Point to also state their official position. They claim, Turning Point contracts with 110 LLC for legitimate services. The money you ask about is spent on marketing and advertising services. Any claim that it is a bribe is false. The second statement is asking why America's Turning Point lists its COO, Tyler Boyer, as an independent contractor. Again, they are saying, I'm not allowed to ask questions. Does Turning Point see the irony in this? Charlie Kirk died under a tent with the slogan, Prove Me Wrong. His whole college campus tour was about asking questions. And now Turning Point is sending out legal letters to small YouTube channels accusing them of defamation for asking questions. I was asking the question why their COO was an independent contractor. I think that is unusual. That is my opinion. Turning Point is now stating their official position. America's Turning Point lists its COO as an independent contractor because his substantive role for America's Turning Point is more in line with the contractor classification. So this is new information. Now we know Turning Point is intentionally doing this. This is not a mistake. They are intentionally classifying their COO as an independent contractor, which means they are not withdrawing payroll taxes to send to the IRS. Now, if I were their CFO, I would not do this. But for some reason, their CFO, the politician Justin Olson, has determined with all of his accounting expertise that this is the best way to classify their employees. Whatever the reason, this is Turning Point's opinion about an IRS classification. It is not a statement of fact, and I'm allowed my own opinion. The letter also states, more generally, you have accused the Turning Point entities of being shell companies. This too is false. They are arguing about what can be defined as a shell company. They don't want anyone to call Turning Point's multiple organizations shell companies. Personally, I do not agree that it is an incorrect use of the definition. Turning Point is moving money between organizations like some kind of shell game. A shell game is a classic street hustle and magic trick. So in my opinion, I think it would be appropriate to call them shell companies. But if Turning Point is so upset about the word shell company, I have no problem calling them something else from now on. On December 28th, I posted a video called Shocking, Turning Point Fraud Gets Worse. They claim you recklessly repeated many of the previously described falsehoods and again directed viewers to the home address of Mr. Boyer, which has resulted in threats to Mr. Boyer's safety. Let me explicitly state that I condemn any violence, any threat, any harassment being sent to any employee at Turning Point. Do not even harass them on X.com. Do not retweet at them. Do not send them angry messages. Keep your comments in my comment section. Just for the record, I will repeat what I have previously said. And I have to tell people, please do not go to Tyler Boyer's house. That is not appropriate. I was in no way calling for violence against Tyler Boyer, and you are absolutely false in claiming that I was. In the video, I blacked out Tyler Boyer's address, which I did not have to do. He put the address himself on a public document. That's not my fault. That's his fault. Don't blame me when I have tried to protect his privacy. So that is the letter. There are more paragraphs of legal language that I skipped, but that is pretty much the letter. I have to say that in general, most of the things they brought up were nitpicky little things, like they don't want me to use the word audit or the word shell company. Those are not even facts. But I am going out of my way to adjust for some of their requests. And I want to mention something else. Take a moment and think of all the statements they listed in this letter as problematic. I think it's around 11 statements they are claiming are false. Now think about all the things I've talked about in my videos on Turning Point. There are a lot of other things that I have said in my videos that were never mentioned in this letter. They did not say I got those statements wrong. I think that is very telling. Again, I have no desire to spread false information. Some of their statements in this letter were actually very helpful in answering some of our questions, so I hope that this video cleared up any confusion. I will be honest with you guys. Getting a legal letter like this is scary. I don't know why Turning Point is attacking me like this. I don't have a lot of money, lawyers are expensive, and I'm going to need a good one. So I'm going to ask for help. If you like my videos, consider signing up for a membership. That is money that I would use if this turns into a lawsuit. If you want to provide additional support, you can also donate directly from the homepage of my website on wolvesandfinance.com. I really appreciate all my members, and I'm so thankful for your support, especially in times like these. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.
It blows my mind. You could literally start your own business right now with Shopify. It's incredible. With Shopify, it's easier than ever to do it in a professional way, where it actually looks.
Doing it. I try to get out of the habit of, getting off and logging off, and everybody's at 50%, 41%, things of that such. And so I did get me a little live stream in. Before the weekend. I still have yet to get myself to some sort of a schedule or a routine. Like I said, I was able to get a family YouTube channel situated. So I have Diary of QLM. That's my mobile channel. That's my personal channel, like my own personal channel. And then of course I have Mrs. Mind Games, which is my algorithm, basically what I like to watch, what I enjoy consuming, things of that such. And now I have a personal channel, and so I'll be building that content over there. We kind of recorded earlier today, and so I will start linking, or what do they call it, collaborating and stuff like that. In case you ever wonder or become interested in what goes on behind the scenes, the mommy side of me. That's where all of that good content is going to be. And so like I said, I appreciate using the cartoon effect on the shorts. And so that's what I use it as for my family channel, because it's just easier that way. I don't have to worry about like storage, media storage, things of that such. And then I can just edit it in the app as well. So I'm trying to become a little bit more efficient, not only with YouTube, but everything that it entails has some great effects. And I want to, utilize them. And then, of course, also teach people as well. I feel like a lot of people are, sort of scared to go through and find one that works for you, whether it's live streaming, whether it's pre-recorded videos, whether it's YouTube shorts. I'm like, when it's all said and done, you gonna want to have a little memory left behind for you. I mean, if that's something that you're interested in, I don't necessarily know. But I know, that YouTube, I think she gonna stick around for a good little minute. Hopefully we can get it to roll over. You know what I mean? Like to the next lifetime. So that way, we have some longevity here, if you ask me. Because I'm like, listen, she got a little history behind her. It's nice to see some videos that be coming up, 8, 9, 10 years ago. It's nice to see good videos, that hit the, I think Gundam Style is it got like some crazy views. Last time I saw it, 5.8 billion. Do you move out the way? 5.8 billion. What are you talking about? Like what? 13 years ago. 13 years ago, Gangnam Style. 5.8 billion views. Stop playing. Stop playing with that YouTube. Y'all, you gonna put some respect on that YouTube, okay? And that's why I'm here. That's why I am trying to, leave my mark behind. Why not? And then, I got some little dependents and stuff, and they wanna, because we all on YouTube. We watch YouTube all day, so there's no need to, not engage. Why not engage? I'm here, you here, we here. Hello. And so, in the meantime, in between, let me wipe this iPad off. He got all his fingerprints and stuff on it. Luckily, I got a little water left. But I'm finna go, because Cole, first, Seth got his bathroom break coming up. Cole, little dude there. He's so funny. He's so funny. He is so funny. Oh, he ready for his little bathroom break as well. I know it's MLK Day today, so it's technically a little holiday and stuff. And so, I might be back tomorrow. I just, like I said, I got to get some intro videos situated. And things of that such. Little things of that such. Just trying to occupy my time versus being live and, content consuming. Got to get into the habit of, editing, things of that such. But I'm going to get it together. Of course, I wanted to tap in. I know it had been a few days. I wanted to go ahead and tap in. For one, because I know that and then I didn't even get back over there to Jimmy. But I know that he was just kind of summing up what had happened with Candace last week. Oh my goodness. Not Erica Kurt making a movie at Fort Huachuca. What in the world? Oh my goodness. I was trying to. I didn't get to watch this video. Let me see.
Appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I am in Utah right now, digging more into the Charlie Kirk murder. I'm also here for a big hearing, which I'm going to get into in a second. I'm at Utah Valley University right now. This is where the shooting actually happened. You can see behind me here. This is this is like the outdoor courtyard.
Sure. Hold on, because I got him over here. It was Bryant. I feel like we've watched him before. But let me tap on him.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current industry-leading AI.
Courtyard amphitheater where Charlie Kirk was speaking right down there behind me when he was shot and killed. And a little later in this episode, I'm going to show you some different vantage points here, and I actually go up on the roof to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of like the layout in a way that I don't think you've seen it before. But first I want to talk about this exclusive interview that I got with Lance Twiggs' family member. Now, Lance Twiggs is the roommate and romantic partner, according to authorities, of Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson, of course, is the man who has been charged with killing Charlie Kirk. So we haven't heard much from really any of their families, but especially Lance Twiggs' family since all of this started. Lance Twiggs and Tyler were living together. And this is new stuff that I've learned through the family. Lance Twiggs and Tyler were living together about 3.5 hours from here in an apartment owned by Lance's grandparents. And there was concern, the family began to have concern about Lance and also about Tyler because the gaming culture that they were involved in that I'm told, and also Discord and other activities happening that they were concerned about before all of this happened. Lance, by the way, let me just be clear, Lance has not been charged with a crime. But Lance, if you guys probably remember, Lance is the person, according to authorities, who Tyler Robinson was immediately texting right after the shooting here at UVU. And he lived with Lance. So after this happened, the police have, and FBI have said from the beginning that he's been cooperating, and that Lance has in the investigation, and we believed initially that he was like almost in something similar to the witness protection program. And I have now confirmed that Lance did have FBI protection at one point, but no longer does. And I'm told that the family retained a lawyer, Lance retained a lawyer, and then he no longer had FBI protection, and right now he has moved out of state and is no longer in Utah. So that's one of the new things I learned. I want to play you my full interview with this family member who spoke with me. I started talking to her a while ago, and sort of just built up this relationship with her. Obviously, you guys know I do all my checks behind the scenes to make sure people who are who they really are. She's actually not the only person in the family who I've spoken to, but she agreed to let me use her voice. She wanted me to sort of silhouette her face just because a lot of these family members have been getting threats, and you can imagine what that's like behind the scenes. So she wanted to be protected somewhat in that way. But I want to play you a little bit of what she told me. There's a lot of new stuff in there when it comes to Lance and what she thinks about Tyler Robinson. And this is my interview with her that played on Newsnation.
Super smart. I mean, Lance was. I do know that, and I remember, he was a concert pianist. Like his talent for piano music was off the charts. Like not normal. It was very impressive. And that's kind of what I've heard about Tyler, is that he was just so smart and it's just a shame that these kids had so much potential and such a bright future.
What do you think changed?
I don't, and then being as antisocial as they were, from my understanding of playing these games and being a part of this Discord group. It just they didn't seem like they were in the real world.
There's text messages between Tyler and Lance where they're texting after the event. A lot of people find them unusual.
The world that they were in, like this gaming world, like that was a normal way that they kind of spoke. That this wasn't an abnormal. The way they spoke wasn't abnormal.
There have been a lot of questions about where Lance is now, whether he's in the FBI protection program. It's been a big mystery. He kind of has disappeared.
Yeah, my understanding was for the first few weeks, because there were so many threats against his family and him, that they had. My understanding is they did have a little bit of FBI detail, and they kind of moved around a little bit, but they're not anymore. He's with his family.
Will he still cooperate with the investigation, from what you know?
I don't know. When I first found out about how he was taken in and talked to by the police, I know that they said that he was very cooperative, but they had to go get him and bring him in. He didn't voluntarily go in and say, "Hey, I heard about this and I have some knowledge." He had to go in, and then he handed things over when they asked for him, but he didn't give up any information until he had to.
There are so many theories out there, and I'm sure you've seen them. People think other people are involved, or another government was involved. I mean, you're kind of in the middle of this. How confident are you that police have the right guy, Tyler Robinson?
100%. They have the right guy.
So I've shown you guys this before a while back, but I just want to show you again, because one of the main questions that I get is, how did Tyler Robinson allegedly get up on the roof? Was it difficult to make the shot? Was it hard for him to get up there? How did he do it? So I just wanted to show you.
Did you hear what she just said, though? Well, she said it so definitively, like, oh, yeah, no, hey, listen, yeah, they got the right guy for sure. I'm like, I mean, I can't necessarily say I'm going to take her word for it. However,
this is the UVU campus. The courtyard where the shooting happened is right back there. But this is all, public area where people walk around. If you just go up these stairs right here, I'm going to walk up the stairs to show you guys. Again, this is the way the students get to and from class. This is a totally public, very accessible area. So if you just come up these stairs right here, you're suddenly up here. This is a walkway here, okay? So you can get between buildings here. And on this side, it's now gated off. This was not gated off before the Charlie Kirk assassination, but it is now gated off. And right beyond this gate, sorry, I'm out of breath. I think it's the altitude. Basically, what investigator Tyler Robinson did is, this gate wasn't here, so he just walked right over to that short little gate that you see over there, that more permanent gate. And then all you had to do is just go right on top of that, which anybody could do. It would just take a second. Just hop that, and then you would walk right out on the roof. That's the roof beyond that.
So that means that they knew where he took the shot at. And if those cameras, I don't know if those cameras were there or if they just got there, then that means that they have footage of him taking the shot. I'm just trying to figure out where the gun was at because it definitely wasn't in that book bag. I'm like, please stop saying that. Please stop saying that it was in the book bag. Please stop saying it was shoved down his pants leg. I'm like, where was it? Was it already up there? It could have just been left up. I don't know.
So this walkway is level with the roof.
Yeah.
So he just has to hop that little gate there, which is what police say did, and then walk out on the roof, and right over there on the edge would be a direct view. It's the perfect line of sight where Charlie Kirk was speaking. Again, this chain link fence, this is new. This was not here before the assassination. So they put this up once they started investigating, and this like police camera system, that's also new. So this was all.
I thought that was up there. I thought that okay. It looked new too.
Was all just open. And again, this is a very, very public walkway. So you just come up on this walkway, hop over that little gate right there, and boom, you're on the roof. And what's interesting is where Charlie was having his event and speaking, down, it's almost like a bowl, down in that courtyard, there are...
Do you want to have a wait list of dream clients? Having worked as a psychotherapist and coach for over 20 years, if I could offer coaches 2 pieces of advice to be...
places that you can get up on the roof just like this all around. Kind of the way this is, the university is designed. And I was talking to a student about this, is like there's a lot of walkways up above on the roof line. That's how they designed it for students to get in between their different classes, just like this one that I'm on right here. And that student was actually telling me that when all of this first happened and everyone was like, oh my gosh, how did he get up on the roof? And there was sort of this national dialogue about how he got on the roof, that all of the students here were like, we can't believe people are even wondering about this because it was so easy. I mean, it was so easy to get up on the roof. And that just kind of shows you that it really was. So to get up there, it was so easy to just walk down this public walkway, went over that little fence. To get down, this is the area over here where he jumped down, according to investigators, and then ran back into this little wooded...
At a good angle, because the camera.
Back here.
The camera that was out. Okay.
Why he decided to jump down, really risk hurting himself, versus just coming easily the way that he did before, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I guess, I'm sure he was just freaking out and wanted to get away as quickly as possible, but he could have just come right back the way that he came and right down this really, really, just like public walkway. All right, you guys remember I was just saying that there's all sorts of walkways up on the roof here with the vantage point of where Charlie Kirk was. So this is another area here. This is all a walkway up high where you can see students walking in between classes. And again, if I turn this way, that right there is where Charlie Kirk was when he was shot. So this entire area, you could have been standing. This entire area you could have been standing. I mean, from a security perspective, it really was just a terrible, terrible situation because,
it was a lot of roofs.
Again, I'm technically on the roof, but the roof is a series of walkways at Utah Valley University. The students, they've created walkways on the roof. So,
and it's a lot of...
I think that is something that people don't understand when you just watch the story. Because it's unique. I haven't really seen a college campus like this. Again, these are all walkways, and they are on the roof of the building. So again, come over to this edge. You could have been right up here. That's right where Charlie Kirk was standing. And there were a ton of places that someone could have perched themselves. It just so happens that Tyler Robinson was up on that building right there. So I hope this gives you guys a little bit of perspective. Again, because I don't think people realize sort of the unique layout of this college campus. So I want to go over with you guys the other component of what's new here, which is this hearing that is going to be happening for Tyler Robinson. And this is pretty significant. This is something that I've covered in the past, but now I have a response from the prosecution, which I'm going to get to in a second. But basically, Tyler Robinson's defense team is saying that the entire prosecution team should be kicked off of the case because one of the prosecutor's children was at the Charlie Kirk event here.
Conflict of interest. Come on, you should have seen that coming, honey.
Was within 80 feet of Charlie Kirk being shot, and the defense, Tyler Robinson's defense, is saying that is a conflict, that person cannot be unbiased, and that there's a conflict because technically, according to the defense, one of the prosecutor's kids is technically a victim here because he was one of, or he or she, I'm not sure if it's a boy or girl, was one of the 3,000 people who were at the Charlie Kirk event, one of the 3,000 victims, and how can the prosecutor fairly prosecute the case if their child is technically a victim? So they made that filing, and now the prosecution has made a filing saying, wait a minute, you shouldn't kick all this off, and this is the reason why, which we're going to read you in a second. And that's what this latest hearing is about, and the judge is going to have to decide which way to go. If he can do a couple of things. If he removes the entire prosecution team, which is kind of hard to imagine, but it's possible. And the reason that they're saying that it should be the whole team, the defense, is because they all know each other. There were text messages going back and forth even before Tyler Robinson was arrested, because this prosecutor was texting other people in law enforcement trying to figure out what was going on because the prosecutor's child was at the event. So if they could remove the entire prosecution team, which would mean they'd have to bring the prosecutors in from another part of the state to move forward, which would really delay things because they basically be starting over, or the judge could possibly just remove that one prosecutor from the case, or the judge could just decide that none of this is conflict and everything just moves on the way it is. So that's the hearing that is coming up now. That's the reason I'm in Utah. And Tyler Robinson is expected to be at the hearing again. You guys remember last time, like, security is insane for these hearings. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it in terms of they close down the roads. They bring Tyler Robinson in basically like a big fortified Humvee surrounded by police officers, goes in a secret entrance in the building, and then they had like all these SWAT team members inside the courtroom. So it's going to be a whole big ordeal again in terms of getting in and out. Yeah, so that's what the latest hearing is about. Tyler Robinson is expected to be there. It'll also be interesting to see if the judge doesn't decide to kind of boot out the public and the media again like he has once before, and it turns into a secret hearing where we won't even know what's happening. So I'm really interested to see if that happens. So let me kind of update you though on this argument again. So the defense made their argument. We need to get rid of the whole prosecution team. Now the prosecution has filed their brief saying, no, that doesn't need to happen. Let me read you some of this. Defendant argues that a member of the prosecution team, and then it says deputy county attorney, and then they don't give the name, has a personal conflict of interest. The conflict of interest extends to the entire Utah County Attorney's Office, and the disqualification of both blank and the office is thereby required. The court should deny defendant's motion because Mr. Blank, and again, they don't give the prosecutor name, does not have a personal conflict of interest requiring his disqualification, and even if such a personal conflict were to exist, it does not extend to the entire office. So there you go. The prosecution team is saying you shouldn't disqualify our one prosecutor, and if you do, you shouldn't disqualify the whole office. They say any testimony this prosecutor could give would be merely cumulative of testimony available from literally thousands of other witnesses and would relate solely to uncontested issues because Blank has personal knowledge of murder. And when I say Blank, just kid. Moreover, Blank comparatively minor emotional reaction could not have had a greater on Mr. Blank and the prosecution team than the significantly more harrowing experiences of many others at the event, like those described in the witness statements defendant relies on. Sorry, they made a typo, so it's hard to read. But basically, they're saying that the prosecutor's kid did not have a very serious emotional reaction to it, only had a minor emotional reaction, and that they wouldn't be relying on the prosecutor's child's.
I still feel like it's a conflict of interest if you ask me. But I'll finish up with him later. Because I said I was going to get up out of here, and I'm going to do just that. So in the meantime, come on back. No. I can finish him on my own time. But in the meantime, in between time,